All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Hump Hangout. Today is May the 11th, and I think we're on episode 391. So, super excited that we've been on this so long. We first got a couple announcements, and then we basically share a couple of things that what's going on in Semantic Mastery, so you're up to date. And then we will jump into questions real quick right after. And if you haven't yet, make sure to check out our YouTube channel, semanticmastery.com. Follow us there. And make sure that you're also getting the notifications that you get updated on the new episodes and new videos that we publish on a regular basis. Adam today is on a bit of a road trip. I think he's hiking in the woods or something like that, maybe. So, I had to take over on that a bit. And Bradley and I will handle it today. So let's jump over to Bradley and let's ask him how he's doing today.
Well, what's up, man? It looks like we've been having issues with our chat on our Hump Day Hangouts page, guys. So Chris was unable to log in. Chris, I was able to just now log in and actually post, but I don't know for how long it was down. So I don't know. We've only got 2 questions. So I'm going to assume that it hasn't been working because Chris has been unable to log in anyway. Guys, if you're having any issues with the chat, if you're trying to post questions, then and it's not working for you, then just jump over to YouTube and we'll try to monitor both the Hump Day Hangouts page as well as YouTube, because you can watch this in YouTube live and then ask questions there if needed. We'll cover some stuff if we've only got 2 questions. So if we get through this rather quickly, then we'll just end a little bit faster because of technical issues. And then I guess we'll get this resolved before next week. So anyway, with all that said, I'm well. Thanks for asking, Chris. Things are crazy busy. We've got more going on than I care to than we should, to be honest with you. Just a lot of projects going on. I got a really big one that I'm trying to get wrapped up by the end of this month. Some really big things. It's really cool too, guys. Flowster, which is on our Hump Day Hangouts page here. The banner is just below Chris, Adam, and I. There's the banner that'll take you over to Flowster. That is the SOP app that I use, which is kind of like, for me, all the processes that I develop and build now are in Flowster. I still have some in Process Street because I was using that for a while, but most everything I have now and everything that I build now is in Flowster, and I'm using it like crazy. I've got it's become such an integral part of my business. I can't imagine running my business anymore without it. And I say that because I encourage you guys to sign up. It's free. And that's how I do all of my training now, for even in the mastermind. I mean, we have our mastermind webinars, but anytime I'm going to release new training to the mastermind members, it's in Flowster now. So, you go sign up for a free account, and that's how you can get training that I make for, our members. And even the last kind of training program that we released, and we didn't sell it, we just gave it away for free for 3 days from Black Friday to Cyber Monday. It's called the Content Mirroring Method, and that was hosted in Flowster. And so that's how basically I do everything. And it's crazy because I started another business a few months ago, my link building business, and I basically started, systematizing it and developing processes in Flowster. And we went from nothing to doing very, very well. We've got about 40 locations that we're managing right now, and just kind of developing some back end solutions to make it easier to manage. And actually actively prospecting now for local SEO agencies as for clients. That's my target client, not individuals with one-off locations, although we can serve them. My target market is local SEO agencies. And so we're actively prospecting for that right now. And the reason I tell you that is because we were able to go within 5 months from nothing, from just an idea, to a full-fledged business now in 5 months. And it's because I built processes, immediately started building processes into Flowster. And I've got a team now. We've got a team of site builders. We have a team of writers. I have my project manager, Hazel, who is absolutely critical to my operation. And then I've got a report generator who does all the backlink analysis and competitive analysis reports. And so we've got, 7, and I've got another VA that's been working for me for a long time, but now all he does is run the crawlers and spam check domains that we purchase. It's insane. We've got a really, really good operation going now that I've been able to build in 5 months, multiple 5 figures a month in a matter of just by building processes from the inception, right? I had this idea one night. It was crazy. It was like a freaking thunderbolt, like a lightning. I swear to God, it hit me. I couldn't sleep. I tossed and turned for about 2.5 hours in bed. Finally got up out of bed at 1:30 in the morning, which I usually get up at 5 a.m. So I'm usually dead asleep by then, right? And I had to go to the computer and just get this out of my head, this kind of link building business idea. And I ended up staying up till 5:30 that morning, just getting all that stuff out of my head. Then I took a brief nap and then went right back to work. But it was crazy because I've never had that experience where I had to get an idea onto paper or digital paper, right? A notepad file. In order for me to be able to get it out of my head, I had to unload it. Right. And then that was basically the first week in December last year. And then I said, okay, well, look, if I'm going to pursue this business, which is start a link building business, I'm going to do it right. I'm going to start developing processes right out of the gate so that I'm not stuck doing everything myself. And that's what I did. And I just tell you guys that because I would encourage you, check it out. Flowster is an amazing app. And I've got a reason that I started to tell you this, but it's an amazing app. You can, if you use it and you develop a habit of building processes for everything that you do in your business, even if you're a solopreneur right now, that's how you can start to delegate and build a team, right? Because you have to get what you know into a repeatable process that others can follow, right? And then you can delegate and duplicate, right? And then you can start to scale your business. And that's really again, I could not have done it I probably could have used a different SOP app, right? But I just got into the habit of, and I'm in there every day. I'm always adding to processes or building new processes all the time for everything that I do in my business. And it's enabled me to bring on personnel and build a business very, very quickly. And I couldn't have done it without it. So one other thing I want to mention about that, just because that was originally why I started to say all this, was first to encourage you guys to build those kind of habits because it will change your business. There's no question. But number 2, I've got kind of a joint venture that I'm doing with Trent Deersmid, the developer and owner of Flowster. We're JVing on something, and we're going to be launching that at the end of the month. And it's pretty big, and I'm pretty excited about it. It's very expensive, but and you guys aren't really the target market for it. I mean, potentially you would be, but I'm because of the JV agreement that I'm, what we're going to be doing with Trent. I'm going to be spending a lot of time with him inside of Flowster and training and coaching kind of some a group that wants to start their own local SEO agencies, and they're going to be using my processes and my SOPs that I built into Flowster, and I'm going to be doing coaching calls and stuff like that. Well, a lot of that stuff is available in our mastermind already for a fraction of what we're going to be charging for the program with him, which is interesting. Not all of it, but a lot of it is. And that's stuff that we teach regularly in the mastermind, guys. And we have a stupid or quarterly offer for the mastermind that is honestly, it's embarrassing. We should be ashamed of ourselves. And when we launch this joint venture agreement, this project with Trent at Flowster, we are definitely going to end up raising the prices on our mastermind because it's the amount of value that we're going to be providing, which is already a lot, is going to be increasing exponentially. So I tell you guys that because if you're interested in learning about what it is that we're doing and how to do it, come join the mastermind, especially now before we do raise the prices. I promise you, we will be raising the prices once this kind of launches with Trent and them. So I would encourage you to check it out. Okay. So how'd I do, Chris, in pitching?
Excellent.
All right. What else?
Yeah, right now is the time to go into the mastermind, and I think it's semanticmastery.com/mastermind. No, mastermind.semanticmastery.com.
Yeah, that's
exactly.
Yeah, and because also think about we've got Content Kings, which is our content So SEO tuned content business. We're very close to finally being able to launch that. We're way behind schedule, like 3 months behind schedule, but anytime you're having software developed, isn't that always the case? It seems to be. So we're very close to launching that, and that's going to be good. So we've got that, and then we've got Local Fury, which is our Google Business, Google Maps signal manipulation app. That it's a service. We're not selling access to an app. We're selling a done-for-you service for Google Maps manipulation. So signal and engagement signal generation, right? So manipulating Google Maps using engagement signals. It's not just CTR. It's much more than just CTR is part of it, but it's much more than that. And we're launching that. We're hoping to open it up for a second round of beta testers June 1st. That's kind of our target right now. And then probably in July, we plan on kind of launching it to the broader audience. The only way that you can get access to stuff like this right now is in the mastermind, because we always give our mastermind members the first shot at it. So again, not here to pitch you. Well, I guess I kind of am, but I just want to encourage you guys. Like I said, they've got a lot of really good stuff cooking on right now that, we don't do training outside of the mastermind other than here for Hump Day Hangouts. Everything else is done in the mastermind, and that's how it's going to remain. And that is actually going to answer one of the questions that we have posted today about outranking and an SOP for outranking. And, that may have already answered your question, Buzz, which is, no, we don't. I'm not teaching anything outside of the mastermind. It's just that's the whole point. We don't want to sell one-off products anymore that become outdated and we have to maintain them and all that. Like, things change in SEO all the time. The best way to stay up to date is to join a mastermind, where we every 2 weeks I do a mastermind webinar. Every other week I do a Build with Bradley group. So every single week I'm hosting a webinar in the mastermind, and we stay up to date with all the stuff that's going on in SEO at any given time. You can ask questions with me, my colleagues, my partners, all the other members. It's the place to be. So anyway, what other announcements do we have, Chris, before we can get into the few questions that we have?
I don't think we have any other announcements at the moment. I mean, we can direct people to the Google business page checklist if you want to.
Okay. Yeah, you can find that at the top of the Hump Day Hangouts page. Just go click over it. And by the way, that is a lot of that has actually been updated and evolved. Like my processes have changed, not significantly. A lot of that stuff is foundational, but parts of it, like tier 1 link building and stuff, that's part of the checklist. A lot of that has evolved over the last few months, and I've not updated that. I've been putting it off because I'm going to right now. You can get the Google Business checklist. It's not an SOP. It's just a checklist. And that's hosted in Process Street. Again, it's free, guys. You can get that. And that was my method for ranking Google assets, like even in the most competitive areas within 90 days, as long as I followed that checklist. Not everything has to be done in that checklist. That's a very comprehensive checklist that everything would need to be completed in the most competitive areas, right? In the most competitive markets or industries. But oftentimes for low to medium competition areas, 30, as long as the first 3 modules were done, then when you get to the off-page modules, the first 3 modules are on-page stuff, developing and building the asset, optimizing it, and that kind of stuff. And then the module 4, which was tier 1 link building, that's where, like, as long as you start on that, if the first 3 modules were completed into their entirety, then when you get to tier 1 link building module and you start to go through that, oftentimes in low to medium competition locations, 3 to 4 or 30 to 40% of that tier 1 link building module, like once completing 30 to 40% of that, boom, it'd be ranked. And so, like I said, the rest of that stuff is only there for the most competitive areas, right? The more competitive, the more you have to complete. So some of that has changed. The tier 1 link building, tier 2 link building, a lot of that has actually changed because I kind of developed my own link building process now that is completely different than what I was doing a year ago. And that's when I developed that checklist. So I need to update it. The reason I've been procrastinating on it is because, number one, we've got 3 other businesses that we're launching, my link building business, Content Kings, and now Local Fury. So I'm really overwhelmed. But the other thing is I want to change, convert that from Process Street checklist into Flowster. And so when I do that, then I will when I convert it from Process Street to Flowster, that's when I'm going to update it with the more current link building methods that I'm using now. So go get it now while you can. I mean, it's still going to be, the checklist will still be free even after it gets converted, but it will be updated at that point. It's still a valuable checklist to have. I'd encourage you to go get it if you don't already have it. And then when the update is available, I make sure that everybody knows about it.
Just one more thing as a heads up. Questions are trickling in on the YouTube chat.
Yeah, I see that.
I guess it's the mini chat that is the issue. So if you guys got any questions or something like that, make sure that you post it in the YouTube live chat.
Yeah, and I'm not even going to grab the screen because I'm just going to answer questions, guys. I hope that's okay with you. There's no reason to there's only 2 questions here, and then we'll have to look at YouTube, and that's kind of weird seeing ourselves on YouTube. That's just weird. So I'm going to go ahead and answer a couple of these questions now.
I think you can pop out the chat in YouTube. So if you click on the 3 dots at the top, you can check pop out chat.
Oh, cool.
Then you have it separate.
All right, I do see that. I'm logged into a different channel, but okay, whatever. All right, yeah, well, then I guess I'll grab the screen. If you guys don't want to look at my face, it's fine. Hold on a minute. I got like 18,000 windows open. We're going to get to all your questions, guys. There's only a handful anyway, so I was thinking maybe something that we might do is slightly change the format of Hump Day Hangouts to where maybe, don't hold me to this yet, but perhaps I can start doing like a mini little training session every week for something that I feel like doing some training about. We generally don't do that for Hump Day Hangouts and haven't for years, right? Because it's more about answering questions, Q&A. But if the questions have been a little bit scarce lately, then perhaps this would be a good opportunity to just do some, small little training sessions. What do you guys think? Let me know if you think that's something you'd be interested in. Might be something that I do if I have enough people comment and say they're interested. So with that said, let me jump into the first question, which is Fitz. He says, what software would you use to optimize an article? Well, it's a good question because I use several, Fitz. I talk about this all the time, but the question just below, which you posted, is our go-to tool for creating tuned content, which is outranking.io. It's fabulous. It's just an outstanding tool. But that's for creating content. If you're going to be just optimizing existing content, there's a number of them that work very well. Surfer SEO, most everybody knows that one. That's a good one. It's a great tool. More recently, I've been using Eric Lancheraz's because also he has some link building functionality that's built into it, like for people that are building links in my link building business. That's what we do. But on-page.ai, this is a really, really, really good tool. It's expensive. It depends on what kind of volume you're doing, but if you're doing like a lot of volume, like I do with my link building agency now, it's pretty expensive. Actually, right now he's got it on sale. That's pretty good. But it's an expensive tool. I mean, it's no different than Surfer for this plan. If you need higher limits, though, it's a bit expensive. But this is a great tool. I mean, I really do like this tool because it not only it does the on-page optimization using Google's NLP, which is super important. If you're going to be selecting a tool that suggests on-page optimization, make sure that it is actually using Google's NLP too. And that costs them money. Whoever the SaaS or the software provider is, the app developer, it costs them money to be able to access Google's NLP, the natural language processors, and pull that data in. So that's why oftentimes the NLP apps cost more than some of the other ones. So again, going back to the original question, if we're developing content, outranking.io is our go-to tool for Content Kings. I mean, we use various tools, but that is we lean heaviest on outranking for producing well-tuned content when we're generating articles. For optimizing existing articles, Surfer SEO, it's a good one. On-page.ai, this is Eric Lancheraz's tool. Great tool, especially because it has it has some other really cool functions or features in there for link building stuff. For if you're doing link building, also analyzing existing backlink profiles to look at the topical classification of those, not only the pages, but also the domains, source domains for those backlinks. So that can show you where your irrelevant backlinks really don't do shit. They won't hurt you, but they're not helping either. And it's very interesting to see that with this tool. Another great tool that works very, very well for tuning content or optimizing content is inlinks.net. This is Dixon Jones's tool, which he was one of the co-founders of Majestic, which Majestic is my favorite backlink analysis. The only backlink analysis tool that I use is Majestic. And Dixon Jones was a founder member of that. And so this is his tool. This is probably the most aggressive like entity analysis tool, at least that I've used. There might be others, but out of the ones that I've used, this is a really, really good tool as well. Plus this has some other pretty good functions that will build for like on-page stuff, like gives you a JavaScript code that you can add to the HTML header of a site, and it will automatically do interlinking between pages and silos, depending on the kind of parameters that you set. It will automatically add schema markup to pages. It does a number of really cool things. So this is also another really good tool. And last but not least, a tool that I've been using more recently for our link building business, for our writers and our because, part of our link, we do 100% done for you links where all they got to do is submit it's local link building. It's link building specifically for local SEO. Okay. So we focus on ranking in organic and maps at the same time. It's both. We don't separate one out of the other. We work on ranking both. So our link building methods are for that reason. And so when we do that, we also produce all the content. We do all the keyword research. We do everything that we need. And this is a great tool as well called WriterZen. I don't know if it's still on AppSumo or not, but it was for a while. And this was an outstanding tool. This is a really, really good tool for keyword research. I have not used it to tune existing content that much, but we do use this tool pretty heavy for my link building business for producing content. I think this is one of my favorite tools for topic and keyword research, topic discovery and keyword research, because it has a function built into it for what they for competitive metrics for keywords that no other tool out there I know of has it that can do it at scale like this one does. And that is, it will pull back the all-in title, the number of pages that have each search query as in the page title, right? So all-in title metrics is what this produces. And I don't know of any other tools that do that at scale like this one does. So this is an outstanding tool as well. Okay. Hopefully that answers your question. So the next question is kind of related. Buzzfry says, hey, SM team, I've been using outranking.io and it's producing way better results than any other tools I have. I totally agree. It is by far the best tool that's why I said for Content Kings, our content business, we lean heaviest on that. We also, like I said, we use a number of other tools still, like phrase.io. We also still use Surfer, WriterZen. So we do use a number of other tools, but we lean the heaviest on outranking. There's no question. It's a great tool. He says, Bradley, I'm interested in seeing your process for using the tool. Do you have it documented in Flowster? No, I don't. Well, I do. Yes, I do. My SOPs were from many versions of it ago, from last year, because last year I spent 4 or 5 months doing a ton of on-page optimization across a whole bunch of my own lead gen assets, because I had a bunch of GMBs tank in rankings. They didn't get suspended, but they tanked in rankings. And I had never cared about organic rankings for my lead gen assets because we always generate leads through the maps pack, right? I mean, that's where all the leads come from. So I never cared about on-page stuff that much. But when I didn't lose, but when I had a whole bunch of like over 30 GMB locations that were lead gen stuff, they tanked in rankings, went from the 3-pack to average of a position around 15. And I had a bunch of my own revenue dry up very, very quickly because of that. And so I kicked myself for not having kept up with on-page stuff and organic ranking, essentially. So I spent many months last year kind of, fine-tuning the content on page and relearning how to rank stuff organically, which is in part kind of what laid the foundation for my link building business now. And so I tested a bunch of on-page tools, and that's how I got familiar with many of the tools that I just shared with you, except for WriterZen. That's the newest one, because I was actually the one in there doing that and learning how to use all of them. And then my blogger, who's been working for me since 2013, once I learned how to use all the tools, I created SOPs to train her how to use them. And then, I pawned off all of that work to her. In other words, I delegated it out to her. Once I learned how to use them, just good enough to where I was proficient with them, I developed SOPs in training and then said, here you go. Esther is her name. Can you learn how to do this in the next month? And she said, yeah. And then I gave her a raise and said, okay, you're going to take over all of this. And by the way, she's our project manager at Content Kings, which is our content business, because she's really good at all these tools. So all that to tell you, Buzz, that the reason why I don't have SOPs for new versions of it is because if you've been using it for long, you know that Outranking continually upgrades and updates. And over the last few versions that they've released, it's significantly changed the functionality and everything else. So I don't keep up with that anymore because I have a blogger that I pay well to handle all of that. So no, I don't have a current SOP. And if I did, I wouldn't sell it separately anyways. It would be available in the mastermind and the mastermind only. Okay. And that's just because that's what my partners and I agreed several months ago, that's what we're doing from now on. We're not selling one-off training products. We might give something away, give training away in certain cases. But if you want like full training or comprehensive training or SOPs, and I develop a lot of SOPs that you have access that anybody has access to in our mastermind, you have to join the mastermind and get them. There's a reason for that. Okay. But you're welcome to come join, Buzz. I don't know what you would be willing to pay for that SOP, but if you came into our mastermind, I'm sure we could, there's lots of other SOPs in there that I think you would find valuable. All right, let me answer some of the questions over here because I saw these pop in.
Yeah, they're popping on both sides now.
Yeah, I see that. At least we know it's working now. Lucretia, hey, what's up, Lucretia? She says, hey, have you ever optimized a GMB using map directions and Web 2s? Meaning you get map directions to the GMB location from areas you're not ranking and putting those links on Web 2s. Well, yeah, I mean, map directions, they've been known to help for sure. I've not tested specifically with just Web 2s, but yeah, I mean, it makes sense that it could work doing like embeds. Where I found embeds are for those types of things are better is in relevant content, not just content, but like themed Web 2.0 sites. Does that make sense? So, you can go out and get embed gigs that are on Web 2 networks that are spammed to death with, all different kinds of industries. And so the topics are mixed and very, it's not specialized. It's not very focused on a particular topic or industry. And I found those to be a lot less valuable than if you can find niche specific or niche relevant. So like industry specific type of embeds. So those would be like Web 2s that are themed around particular industries. And they can be kind of broad in that, like, just for an example, like home services, right? Home improvement / home services type of networks that could potentially like embed networks, right? Web 2.0 networks that can be used for embeds that are themed around home improvement, home services, that kind of stuff. Because then, you could mix different types of like industries, roofing and tree service stuff and plumbing and things like that. And it would still make sense because at least it's on like topically relevant, at least on a broad sense, topically relevant Web 2 networks. I found that to be more effective. Now, where do you find those? Well, that's hard. That's difficult to do. I've gotten away from doing a lot of any kind of bulk link building of any sort because I found that topical relevance is absolutely what is the most effective right now. And not just page relevance, but domain relevance is most important. And that's what I built my entire link building business around, is domain relevance. And it is working so much better than anything else out there that I know of, that I've personally tested. I'm not saying you can't get results from other things. I've just not experienced the kind of results that I do with the type of link building that I'm doing now. So with that said, you can go check on like Legit, for example, and see if you can find some themed network providers for embed runs. I've tested a few of those, and there's a couple of them that they're okay. They're fairly decent, but like I said, I've gotten away from doing mass links of any sort, including embeds, just because I've not seen the effectiveness. Like, even a year ago, it was much more effective than it is now. And I think it has to do with topical relevance, and it's difficult to do that unless you build your own network. So I don't know. That's my thoughts on that. I know that you can get results from doing stuff like that. There is no question. In fact, Mateo over at GMB Crush, if you guys aren't a member of the GMB Crush group, Facebook group, go join it. It's free. He posts a lot of really good content in the Facebook group, like posts in the Facebook group that are like blog posts with all kinds of tests and things that he's finding out that work well for Google Business. And that he just posted in the last week about maybe a week and a half or so about changing the photos for Google Business posts to photo screenshots of driving directions in Google Maps. And so Google post photos, right? So Google Business posts, but using, instead of like stock images, which aren't recommended anyways, using screenshots of driving directions and screenshots of Google Maps around that local business, right? And using those as the post photos. And it adds location relevance to the post because Google reads those photos and can recognize those landmarks and those areas. And seeing movement in Google Maps. So in other words, the Google profile, the Google Business profile moved positively in Maps because of just doing that. So he tests things in isolation. And again, if you go join the GMB Crush group, Facebook group, it's free. You can see within the last week and a half or so that he just posted that. Very, very interesting. And then he also has another post about using Google's vision, which is the photo like processing, AI that Google has that can like identify entities within images. And he shows that, like, again, another test that he ran. It's a great group, and Mateo's badass, but he ran another test where he took stock images off of a Google profile, Google Business profile, and replaced them with images that he ran through the Google Vision API and was able to, he basically, selected images and ran them through the Google Vision to determine what the entities were that Google identified as the primary entities, the supporting entities within the image. And he found images that were the most appropriate. I think it was a dentist that so a dental practice that he did this on. I think that was it. Anyways, he basically replaced stock images with images that were the entities for that business. In other words, that were entities relevant to that business, and saw significant movement in Maps, if that makes sense, just because Google is reading those. And that's one of the ways that you can optimize now, besides EXIF data, right, which is the metadata that we can add, like geo coordinates and all that kind of stuff. Besides doing that, you can actually optimize the image itself or choose images that Google is recognizing through its Vision API, essentially, the entities that you want associated with that particular business. So that might be something else you'd be wanting to try. I don't know if that answers your question, Lucretia. I've not tested what you were asking about. I know that you can get results with that kind of stuff, but hey, Jesper, what's up, buddy? But I think more so with topically relevant networks, if you're going to be doing like embeds and stuff like that, that's where I see the best results. Okay. Complete Realty, Ken. What's up, Ken? Hey, buddy. We got a mastermind webinar tomorrow, so hopefully we'll see you there. He says, what are you using to schedule posting the GMB? OneUp. It's my favorite. It's a great app. smshort.link/OneUp. That's it. So smshort.link/OneUp. I don't know if I can post that in here or not. I can try it. I'm not logged into Semantic Mastery there. Actually, let me get out of there. I think this is it, Ken. But it's a great app. smshort.link/OneUp. I believe that's it. Tell me if that doesn't work. We'll just go visit and see. It's a great app. It's basically all it does is, it used to integrate with Facebook, but Facebook slapped them for something, and it won't integrate with Facebook until I'm in my client account anyway. Let's see. So yeah, that was it. That was the link for sure. Anyway, they won't be able to integrate with Facebook again until September for whatever reason. They're in Facebook punishment timeout, Facebook timeout. But this is a great app right here. It also integrates with Twitter and I think Instagram or something. But all I use it for is Google. Well, Google and Facebook when it integrates with Facebook. But like I said, it's temporarily in timeout. So for Facebook. So, but this is a great app for Google Posts. Really good app. Okay. And it's inexpensive. All right, moving on. Next. We'll come back here to Rami's question in a minute. Next one is Jesper. What's up, buddy? We've got next week. You're going to come guest present, or I think, or whatever. I know you and I've got something we're doing just prior to Hump Day Hangouts next week. You're welcome to stay for Hump Day Hangouts and do kind of a guest host with me if you'd like. Be happy to do that. So everybody give it up for Jesper. He's got some really cool stuff, and we're going to be introducing something to you guys next week. I'm excited about. Been testing with it. By the way, Jesper, I got my VA trained. I just hired a VA specifically to run what we're going to talk about next week, and she's doing well. She's done probably 6 or 7 of them for me now. So pretty cool. Very grateful for having that now, and I got to bring it in house. Sorry for not giving you the outsourcing the work to you anymore, but I've got it in house, and I appreciate that very much. So. All right, James is up. He says, how many GMBs for one business is too many? I have a client who has 3 branded to their name GMB already. They want to get another in another part of the city, good or bad. James, it's okay. All right, so let me remember. There's always an it depends in SEO. How many is too many? I don't think there's anything is too many. But what happens where you can run into problems or where there's danger is if first of all, if you have them all managed or owned under the same account, that's a really bad thing, especially if they're not. I don't know whether they're spammed listings or not. My guess is they're probably not, just because it's harder to verify those now. But if they're in actual, if they're valid business locations, then there's not really a limit to how many you can have. If they're spammed locations, meaning if they are, registered to PO boxes, or if they were like the pin drop method and things like, which I don't even know if that works. I don't think that works anymore. Anyway, if they're not actually registered Google business profiles to valid business addresses, then if you have them and you can still get those somehow, I would encourage you to have them owned by different Google accounts. They can be managed by one account. Like you can have share a manager access to one Google profile and then manage all of them from that. But the primary owner should be separate Google accounts. That way you keep them safe. Okay, number one. Number two, the only time I've experienced a problem with too many, I guess you could call it, GMBs, is when they're too close together in proximity. Because then what happens is, like, pigeon filter, right? That was it's a proximity filter that was part of what had occurred a few years ago, where if there's two of them that are too close together, one of them will be ghosted. Usually one of them will be ghosted. I guess both of them could be, but generally Google will kind of ghost one of them, which means it's not de-indexed, it's not unpublished, but it won't appear in search or in map search. Which in one of the ways you can determine if a listing is ghosted or not is if it had been appearing in maps, even if it's not in the top 3. Let's just say you search your keyword, it pops them in Google search, and it pops with a 3-pack, and then you click the map or to see more results, right? And then it opens up in Google search with 20. It doesn't actually open up in Google Maps. It opens up in Google, but into the map view where there's like 20 results per page, right? Well, let's say it's in there somewhere on page 1, and it had been, and then all of a sudden it disappears and you can't find it. And you're going through and you're clicking back, page 2, page 3, page 4, and you don't see that GMB anymore. Or that Google business profile anymore. That means but it had been there, right? And all of a sudden it disappeared and you can't find it in the search results. One of the ways you can tell if that's a ghost action is by clicking the zoom button, either in or out, just click it out one time out or one time in, whatever, zoom either way in one step, and then zoom it back to its original. And if it reappears, then that's kind of a ghost action from a filter that's being applied. So generally, like I said, if you click zoom in once and then you click zoom back out, and all of a sudden now it's appeared again in the search results, and you can find it, then that means it's being filtered by whatever that filter is. We called it the pigeon filter, but it may have been changed now because of the local update that occurred last year at the end of the year. So anyway, I would that's the only time I would say there's too many is if they're too close together, especially if it's a service area business. If it's a storefront business, I don't even know that would be an issue because customers come to the store location. But in a service area business where there's a service area, and I've experienced this with my own because I got a little bit too aggressive with tree service stuff in some cities where I'd have them too close together, and in some of them would get ghosted. And that was because of that. It's a proximity filter. So I don't think there's an issue with it. I've never seen a problem with it. As long as they're valid business listings, they can all be owned by the same account. That's fine. If they're spam listings, you want to separate them by Google account. You can still have one manager manage all of them, but you want to have the primary owner as different Google accounts. Okay. All right. The questions are rolling in now. Hey, that's great. I thought it was going to be a short one. Evergreen SEO says, new to following you. Great information. Thanks. Appreciate that. Glad to have you here. Quit this house. Would you use those tools for creating homepage content? Like, are you mean like outranking? Yeah, outranking is our, like I said, guys, we use phrase.io, outranking, Surfer, Jasper, formerly Jarvis, formerly Conversion AI. Like it's changed its names a bunch, but we still use that. Inlinks, I had been using Inlinks for quite some time, but I've kind of scaled back on that a little bit because I'm using for link building now Writer's End a bit more. Yeah, all of those are kind of good, guys. Like if for homepage or money site content, absolutely. Writer's End, again, I'm using that kind of more right now because I had to learn it to teach my link building team and develop an SOP for them and all of that. Anyway, I just did most recently for my my VA that I just hired because of Jesper. Doing cloud stacks for me now. Anyway, I just had to do an SOP on Writer's End for her. I just bought another account for Writer's End for her specifically for that. So, but yeah, you can use those tools for multi-site content. That and what's great about why I like outranking the best for that is because it has an AI writing assistant, but it's different the way that its AI writing assistant is programmed to use the top 20 results for the keyword that you plug into it when you're developing content. So just like most of these tools, it goes out and scrapes the top two pages of results for whatever search query you enter into it. But unlike a lot of the other tools that have an AI writing assistant where you go in and you and I've said this many times, especially to our mastermind members, because people are always asking like, man, I get shit results from AI writing tools. Well, here's the thing. The trick to AI writing tools, guys, getting good results is having a really well-developed outline. If you can, and that's like, we spend as much, and this is no bullshit, our writers for Content Kings, which again, we use outranking very heavily for that. They spend as much time on the outline as they do producing the article. And our average article length is around 2,000 words right now. We don't sell based on cost per number of words. We sell our articles for a fee per article, and then we let the tools tell us how long it needs to be competitive, right? And so sometimes we'll produce a 2,600 word article and it's the same price as an article that only had to be 1,200 words, if that makes sense. But they'll spend as much time on the outline as they do producing, like drafting the actual content. And that's because that is where, like, again, if you develop a really well-tuned outline with proper stacking of keywords in proper headings, so H2s and H3s, so and all of that, like, and you get that right, and a lot of questions, because Google loves questions and answers, so H3s are really good questions to support an H2, like all of that. If you can develop a really good outline, then you can direct the AI writing tools with the outline, like, so you can set. That's how you do it with Jasper, by the way, formerly Jarvis or Conversion AI. Jasper will go off on a tangent and like spit out gibberish if you don't have a really well-defined like parameters to keep it within. Does that make sense? So you basically create like guardrails with your outline, and it keeps the AI writing assistant confined within that outline. But that's where outranking shines, is because outranking, not only do you develop a really well-tuned outline as part of the process, but whenever you hit the go button on the AI writing assistant, it actually uses the content that it's pulled back from the top 20 results for that search query as its basis or its input for what it's going to output. So it stays really relevant to the topic at hand. Does that make sense? Whereas Jasper, like again, and a lot of the other tools I've noticed, you really have to constantly keep updating the kind of like instruction area for it to stay on topic. And it's a pain in the ass because you get a lot of outputs that you have to delete and then hit it, try again. And you might have to change the wording in the instructions to try again and that kind of stuff. Whereas outranking it does it really well because it basically sets the parameters. It confines it to only like the input type is basic, the content that is pulled back for the top 20 results. So it's a really, really good tool for that. And yes, you can publish money site content with it. Really good tool for that. All right, moving on. I'm going to answer this one over here. We got a couple now. It's kind of weird doing two different chat boxes. Hey, Bradley, have you ever done Google Entity Stacks? Oh my God. You must be new to semantic mastery. Yes, we actually launched the first version of Google Stacks before they were Google Stacks. It's called RYS Academy. We launched that in 2015. That was where they were born. So yes, we've used them. We pioneered that. My former partner, Marco Benavides, who's now with Rob Beal over at the Heavy Hitter Club, he was the one that kind of developed. He was a partner of ours at Semantic Mastery. He developed the RYS, what we called RYS Academy, stood for Rank Your Shit Academy. It was using Google Drive and G sites to rank. And I still use that today. It's still a foundational part of my local ranking methods. All I focus on is local SEO, and Google Stacks G sites and Drive stacks are absolutely still a part of my method. They are primary branded tier one assets. Integral, critical part of what I do is Google sites and Drive stacks. So absolutely. Says, how do you go about structuring it for GMB rankings? I've been pointing all the entities to the Google site, and then the Google site points to the CID. Pointing all of the Drive stack properties to the Google site is good, but then use the Google site. I don't like to build a lot of links to the CID URL, guys, because only SEOs do that. It's better to do embeds, which isn't the CID URL. It's different. But what I suggest you do is a Google Map embed on the G site, which you probably already have. And then also embed, here's the thing, for Google Business profiles, right? Guys, use the Google Business website. So that's on the .business.site domain, right? So whatever subdomain you give it, .business.site. That's the free Google Business website. It's essentially a one-page free website that they give you. It's a landing page, but it's a Google asset. And I use this as an example for my link building clients, that you got to think about the Google Business website as a bridge between your money site and your Google Map, because they're connected. Especially if you do it like what I teach, which is if you can get an appointment URL in your Google Business profile, if there's a field for an appointment URL in the info tab of your Google Business profile, and you plug in your money site URL there, then that becomes the make appointment button on a Google Business website, which is a do follow link, which is present on the homepage of that Google Business site, as well as any of the posts. Every time you publish a Google Business post, it publishes like a blog post does on the Google Business website. And every one of those posts, when you click on the post from the Google Business website, it opens up as an inner page of that .business.site address. Does that make sense? So it's an inner page of the Google Business website that has that make appointment button URL, which is a do follow link from a Google asset. So, and even if you don't have an appointment URL field in your Google Business profile, in the Google Business website settings, where you can edit the text and everything else, you can add the call to action button at the top of that site. Can be phone call, request a quote. There's a number of different things that you can select from there. But there's a make appointment selection that you can put your money site URL in. So you can still, even if you don't have an make appointment field in your info tab of your profile, you can still add that as a do follow link to your Google Business website, right? But that's not it, right? That's not the only thing. If it's a storefront business where or a service area business where you're displaying your address, if you look at a Google Business website, at the bottom, there's a map there. It's not the same as the Google Business map. Like, in other words, it's not the Google Business Profile map, but it is a map. So there's a connection there between the Google Business website and the map, the physical location. Does that make sense? And you're linking from the GB website to your money site. Okay, so that's the bridge between the two. And even and then the other part of that is, publish a well-tuned article. Treat it like a money site, guys. It's a tier 0 asset, right? There's 3 tier 0 assets: the money site, the Google Business website, and the Google Map. Those are the 3 tier 0 assets. A G site and a Drive Stack are tier 1 assets, branded tier 1 assets. But the 3 tier 0 assets are those. Those are like the golden frame, right? Those are your epicenter. Those are your like ground zero, right? That's Google money site, Google Business website, Google Map. So those 3 things are the most important. And that Google Business website ties the money site and the map together. So you publish tuned content on there. I think it can take, I think it's close to 2,500 words. So you can have a really well-tuned article on there, which is what, we recommend. And then also linking out from that article that you publish on that landing page for the GB website, link out to all of your branded tier 1 assets, everything: Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube channel, a Press Advantage organization page. If you follow Semantic Mastery, you probably got one of those. An ID page. If you understand local business schema, you should have an ID page, which generally hosted on Amazon S3. It's just an HTML page hosted on Amazon S3. Cloud stack pages like what Jesper teaches. Your syndication network properties, so WordPress, Tumblr, Blogger, all of those types of assets, you link out with brand anchors or topic and or target anchors. So that's, target anchor would be keyword plus location modifier. Topic anchor would be keyword only. You link out to your branded tier 1 assets with contextual links on the Google Business website out to your branded assets. And the visual that I like to kind of convey to my link building clients is, if you consider your money site on the left or whatever, your money site here and your Google Map here, and your Google Business website is a bridge between the two. Now they're linking out to your branded tier 1 assets using contextual links with brand anchors, topic and or target anchors are the link to those branded assets are like suspension cables holding the bridge up, right? So you get that visual in your mind. You got a bridge, money site, Google Map. Your bridge is the Google Business website, and the suspension cables are the links that are linking out to all your different branded assets. And what that does is it's creating an association between your branded assets. So nodes within your knowledge graph, the entity or brand knowledge graph. You're helping Google to understand the entity. You solidify or validate the entity, and you're making those associations through a very powerful Google asset. So that Google starts to understand the relationships and associations between those, and it basically increases your entity footprint, if that makes sense, which is a good thing. Very, very powerful. Again, yes, so going back to the original question, I know that was a long-winded answer, but back to Rami's question about pointing it to the CID map. No, what I recommend that you do is a Google Map embed on the Google site, right? So the G site, Google Map embed, also embed the Google Business website, just like I just mentioned. Once you've optimized it, you've linked out to all those branded assets. Now you embed that as well. You can also link to that because you get a do follow link from Google G sites when it's linking to another Google property. So when you're linking to the .business.site, it's a straight link to that site with no redirect. Like, I don't know if you know this, but if you link out to something that's not a Google asset from the G site, it puts a redirect in between. It's not an actual like direct link. So it's not really a follow link, but that you can get kind of around that using embeds. That's why we do that. So I would recommend linking to your money site, or embedding your money site is actually better in the G site. Do an embed. I usually put that right up at the top, just below the page header or title. I usually do an embed with the money site, then embed and link to your Google Business website, and then embed your Google Map, right? Those are all really important things to do that's how I do it for my G stacks and my Drive stacks and G site, right? So the stack points to the G site. The G site then embeds and or links to all of my other primary tier 0 assets, right? Does that make sense? So you should come join the mastermind. That's a great question, and I love talking about that stuff. All right, we got a couple more. We only got a few minutes left. So JK says, I want to sell leads on a pay-per-call basis. However, I want to focus on sales and not generating traffic. Can you recommend a service or site or offer advice on how to hire someone to generate calls with paid traffic so I can send leads immediately? Yeah, I mean, I don't know, because if you're selling leads, it's hard to do. I mean, the only time I don't do PPC for anything other than Google. I just can't stand Facebook. I have no desire to do it. Google assets, I do PPC, pay-per-click advertising, and Google ads and YouTube, which is in Google ads anyway. And it's hard. It's very difficult to be profitable with selling leads through Google search PPC because it's so expensive, at least in the industries that I'm in. Here's an example. An average, I see a couple more questions coming up from Evergreen SEO. Alfredo, I think. I'll get to you in just a minute, man. So an example would be like for tree service stuff, tree removal, right? Tree removal, cost per click, average cost per click values in the areas that I work in are generally, let's say $40. Let's just say $35, okay? $35 cost per click for a tree removal lead. A good conversion rate on paid PPC advertising is about 30 to 35%. Okay, so that means for every, you get one conversion for every 3 clicks. Does that make sense? So what is a conversion? When we're talking about lead generation, conversion is a phone call or a form fill, right? So like in the case of tree stuff, somebody submitting an estimate request or quote request form on a website or making a phone call to request an estimate, right? So either one of those would count as a conversion. That's a lead generated. That's what a conversion is in this sense, right? So a 1 out of 3, and we're paying $35 for cost per click for a tree removal lead, or excuse me, a tree removal click, we're paying $35. And it's an average, a good conversion rate is 1 out of 3. That means we paid $105 for that tree removal lead. Does that make sense? Very difficult to make money on that. Because when I sell tree service leads on a pay per lead basis, if I'm selling exclusive leads, I generally sell them for $60. So you're losing money. You can't make any money that way. If I'm selling them, and I have a number of tree care contractors and a number of locations where I sell the lead more than once, those contractors are aware of it. I sell those for $25 a piece. So in other words, and I'll sell it up to 3 times. So I can generate as much as $75 from a tree removal lead. If I'm selling it with exclusivity, which means only one contractor gets the lead, then they have to pay double or $60. It's either 50 or 60, depending. If it's tree trimming, it's $50. If it's tree removal, it's $60. So you can see that I can't make money with PPCs, not Google search ads, for lead gen. I can't do it. I just can't make the money because I'm at a loss, and so it just doesn't work. I did it last year. It probably was in 2020 now. So it's probably a year and a half ago now. I tried to do it with YouTube ads, and I spent $8,000 over 6 weeks on YouTube ads, trying to dial in lead generation for tree stuff, tree services, with using YouTube ads. And I got it down to where right when I cut the campaign off, because I'd spent $8,000 in 6 weeks, I had finally dialed the campaign into where I was consistently generating leads from YouTube for $58. That was my average cost per lead. And that was, again, unsustainable because I was even at $60. I mean, that's basically break even. And that's like me pouring a shit ton of money to break even. It doesn't make any sense. So I stopped doing it, and I haven't tested it since. So as far as page, if you can find other sources that are cheaper, maybe, I'm sure you can do it. I know that there are some people that are doing it. I don't know how they're doing it, because when I do local lead gen with Google PPC, it's incredibly expensive. In fact, I don't even do it for lead gen anymore. I only do it when it's a client that's paying me to manage their ads, because it's just unable to monetize leads. There's no profit margin. Even if I can break even, there's no margin, right? Does that make sense? So I don't have any recommendations for you. I guess that was the short answer. Yeah, I don't have an answer for that. SEO is a much better way to, if you're selling leads, it takes a little bit of time, but if you're selling leads, man, you make so much more money if you can do it, if you can generate leads using SEO. Definitely a better choice.
Just a head ups, we are 2 minutes before
I got
deadline, and we got more and more questions coming.
I got a few. I'll try to run through these. Can you speak about GMB that needs to be verified, but we don't have access to the address on the GMB address? Is it, you mean re-verified? Well, I haven't. I got a Google Business Profile verified for my links building business, Semantic Links, just a couple of weeks ago. But I used a third party for it, and I don't have access to it. I can't. I'm not even a manager of it. So it sucks. I have a Google Business Profile, but I can't do posts. I can't update it. I've got to contact. Anyways, it's a pain in the ass. I haven't tried to verify any Google Business Profiles since December, when they started rolling out the video verification stuff. I've heard a lot of our own mastermind members that have experienced that, or even if they got postcard verification that didn't require video verification, then as soon as they verified it, it's suspended. Boom, just like that. And so I haven't done it. What I was going to start to say was, if you are getting postcard verification and you don't have access to receive the postcard, I don't know how you circumvent that. And even if you did have access to the address right now, from what I'm hearing from most industries, is when you try to verify, they require video verification. And so unless it's an actual valid business address, they're denying verification. They won't approve it. Unless you're in a valid business location, which you might be. So if you do have a valid business that you're trying to verify a GMB to, a Google Business Profile to, and you don't have access to a former address, maybe, then contact support and see if they can you can request it to be sent to the new one and verified to the new one. But if it's a spam type of thing that you're trying to do, which is what we've been doing for years, you might be shit out of luck. I just don't have any advice for you on that. The next question was, what other methods do we have access to for getting out of being suspended? I don't have real biz documents. Yeah, that's a good one too. I don't know of any. It's difficult. I've heard of some people being successful if they had really validated the entity, even if it was spammed, it was fake, by like a bunch of citations, a bunch of entity validating entity validating like assets, Google sites, other various assets with ID pages, schema, all these kind of things that tie and kind of help to validate an entity that you can unsuspend that way. But that takes work. So it's kind of a chicken and an egg thing, right? Like, what do you, if you got suspended and you don't already have all of those like entity validation stuff in place, then how is it worth the time setting all of that up when you're not sure that it's going to help, get it unsuspended? You don't know if that's going to affect it or not. So I don't know that I would want to put that much time into it. It's unfortunate, but Google has definitely gotten a lot harder on us guys. So, we have to try to think of ways to still do what we do without Google business assets so much. And part of that is, kind of what Jesper does with cloud stacking. There's a lot of potential there. So sorry, I couldn't give you a better answer for that. The last question is, Bradley, when you were talking about the appointment link with your GMB site and all of those thoughts you were talking about to bridge all of your dots, is that in your SOP, the free SOP or the paid one? Yes, it's in the mastermind for sure. I have my entire business process for ranking Google business profiles, including absolutely everything that I do in step-by-step checklist format with training videos, links to resources, everything. Like, it is a full SOP. It's in the mastermind, and it's the only place you can get it is in the mastermind. And you can literally hire a VA that all they know how to do is turn on a computer and plug them into the SOP, and they can literally optimize a Google business profile exactly the same way I do it. I got full SOP training in the mastermind for that. It took me months to put that together, and I'm still adding to it, by the way. I'm actually working on the tier 1 link building module for that now, but yeah, that's available in the mastermind. It's the only place you can get it. So I encourage you to come join. Anyway, thanks you guys for being here today. Thank you guys for in the YouTube chat. That's something we don't typically look at. Maybe we'll have to start doing that. So thanks, Chris, for hanging out. We'll see you guys next week. By the way, I do have a mastermind webinar tomorrow. For those of you in the mastermind, we will see you there.
Cheers.